Welcome back to the very first WorldSkills UK live online international skills summit. This is our final day, but we have 2 more sessions to go. And as always, as we have said throughout the event, we'd love to hear from you. You've had some great questions for our panelists so far this morning, and you can continue doing so by just using the facility on the right-hand side of your screen. Ask a question, just pop your name and your job title and your question, and we will ask as many of those questions to our panelists as we can. Welcome to session 8. This is called the WorldSkills Legacy, how to embed excellence across the skills system. And just before we meet our panel, I want to, if we can, you can see Dr. Neil Bentley-Gockman, OBE, is in the studio with us, and this is the key to almost everything we've been discussing over the last 2 days. It's fine to deliver something for a short period of time. There has to be a legacy, and just to, in case our panel missed some of yesterday's discussion, we're going to very shortly be joined by Chris Humphreys, CBE, President of WorldSkills, and also Dr. Susan James-Relly, who's Director, Scope and Head Education for Social Services at the University of Oxford. Yesterday, we heard Anne Milton and Robert Halfon MP talking in glowing terms about the possibility of recreating London 2011.
Yes, and I think for lots of WorldSkills countries, the ambition to host a WorldSkills competition is a fantastic opportunity, not just to showcase the level of skills excellence in any particular country, but to bring the international skills community together to demonstrate skills and inspire the next generation. And part of that is all about the galvanizing catalytic effect that it can have in driving reform and change. And as you say, there's a huge legacy impact that, if you get it right, can be really powerful in driving change and reforming systems, and making sure that the investment of hosting a world skills competition in any particular country has a long-lasting, sustainable impact. And that's what we were talking about yesterday, is in the context of a forthcoming white paper on skills for England, really looking at tying an ambition to hosting WorldSkills again in the UK over the next decade, and thinking about how that could be a catalyst for driving change, getting people really focused on the standard of excellence that needs to be achieved in skills for the economy and for employers and for the UK's international competitiveness, hosting and showcasing all of that, and then creating a legacy. And so it's a long-term ambition, but also part of a longer-term strategy, which we're hoping we're going to see coming out of this white paper. And I think now's the time for us to be thinking more ambitiously. Now is exactly the right time to be taking a long-term view on skills systems in the UK and driving excellence and mainstreaming excellence into our skill systems as part of a long-lasting legacy of the white paper, and potentially alongside that an ambition to host WorldSkills again.
Well, it's at times like this we could do with somebody who maybe either was, I don't know, involved in 2011 or perhaps has conducted some research. Sorry. Oh, not one, but two. Let's introduce our panel. We have Chris Humphreys, CBE, President of WorldSkills, and also Dr. Susan James-Relly, Director, Scope and Head Education for Social Sciences at the University of Oxford. Welcome to both of you. It's very, very good to see you here. If we can start with you, Chris. I'm afraid I was not aware of WorldSkills UK in 2011 when it came to London, to my shame, although at that period I was involved in the planning for 2012. So that is my defence. Not much of a defence, I grant you, but it is my defence. As a man who was there and was absolutely key to its delivery, tell us what I missed.
Well, thank you, Simon, and a particular thank you and congratulations to Neil, the board and staff, and all the WorldSkills UK sponsors and partners for organising this amazing event. As you say, it was my amazing privilege to both lead the bid to host WorldSkills in London in 2011, and also to chair it until the completion of the event at the end of 2011, early 2012. And you talk about the Olympics. But of course, that's in part what did motivate us to bid for the event in that year. We knew there would be a lot of attention on the Olympics. It's inevitable that sport attracts major press and media attention. But actually, we took the view that it was skills in engineering, construction, hospitality, logistics, distribution, transport, health and social care, all of that, that actually makes holding an Olympic event possible. And so we wanted to host WorldSkills London 2011 in order to showcase the very skills that make that event possible. Now, why is that as relevant today as it was then? Well, we know in the post-COVID new normal, we're going to have to put a lot of effort into creating and generating a very effective skills-led recovery. And the skills that WorldSkills competitions highlight and promote to young people, to parents, to educators and trainers, and to industry are the very skills that will be essential for that skills-led recovery. And people would say, well, this is a difficult time, that economically it's a challenge, that the costs are significant. But of course, the same was true around that time, because in 2008, the world faced its first really serious global economic crisis. We entered recession, we saw a major impact on employers, and yet what was essential to get us through that and safely out the other side was to ensure that skills remained paramount, that we supported employers to get the skilled workforce that they would require for recovery and growth. And we needed to really attract young people and their parents and other influencers to see the value that skills make change to the country, but that they provide to each individual to advance their own career and develop successful lives and families that would really benefit from the investment they'd placed into the skills they were pursuing. And that was true. There's no doubt that despite the impact of the recession in 2008, the WorldSkills London 2011 event is considered by the WorldSkills community to be a very key and major success, quite a transformation, in fact, in terms of the scale of the event, because it didn't just focus on having skills competitions, but it focused on drawing young people, teachers and parents to the event so that they could see the skills that were necessary to support future economic growth, to touch them firsthand, to have a go, to experience these things, to meet with employers, and to see young role models of their age and only slightly older succeeding and performing at a world-class level against the very best the world had to offer in competition. And so from my perspective, this event really did help to transform attitudes. And indeed, our research shows that. I mean, I know we're going to talk about this in a bit more, but, you know, I just remind you, we had 200,000 young attendees at the event, about 65% of whom were young people. And some of the findings were that 73% of those attendees were more interested in vet careers at the end of the event, but more significantly, 81% of their accompanying adults said that the experience they had would change the career conversations they had with their children and their students. So, you know, there is a big impact we had for that. And of course, if you're looking to create a national program of encouragement and support of public commitment and employer investment in skills for the future, then having a major event like this around which the whole country can unite is actually an incredibly powerful way to send a message of importance, significance, and opportunity for everyone that attends. So I think this is a fantastic opportunity, and I hope the UK most definitely does drive a bid to bring WorldSkills back to the UK in the coming decade.
And in terms of navigating a route to make that a reality, obviously in 2011, we had the coalition, didn't we? We had David Cameron and Nick Clegg, but obviously I'd imagine that the discussions would have taken place Gordon Brown, Tony Blair, all these names that for some reason seem so long in the past because of the remarkable speedy time that we've felt in the last few months. What were the challenges? How much conviction was needed? How much convincing was required on your behalf in order to get the right people ticking the right boxes to say, yeah, we green light it, as you say?
It was a big issue. It was amazing to see, actually. We launched the bid under Tony Blair as Prime Minister. We continued the bid under Gordon Brown as Prime Minister, and we then had to successfully transition the event through a complete political change to the first coalition government in the UK for decades.
That must be a WorldSkills world record. I mean, surely no one has delivered an international event like this under 4 separate leaders in a period. I mean, only, you'd like to say only in the UK, maybe not currently in the world climate, but that was a remarkable achievement looking back, wasn't it?
It did give us our biggest headaches, and you also realise that 2008 financial crisis was in there, and all our sponsors in early 2008, almost all of them bailed out during that year because they could no longer retain the financial commitments. It was a bit of a roller coaster, but you know what was consistent throughout it was that we did have cross-government, cross-party support for the event. And that's critically important. And I think the same thing is possible now, because this is not a political issue, it's a key economic and social issue in which everyone stands to gain from the benefit. And we showed that then, and I'm as convinced today that that's possible now too.
Stay with us, please, Chris. We will come back to you. I also want to bring in at this point, though, if we can, Dr. Susan James-Relly, who's Director, Scope and Head Education for Social Sciences at the University of Oxford. Good afternoon and welcome. Obviously, you've got a thorough understanding of what happened in 2011 because of the report that you've been lead on. What does it tell us about the importance of having such an event here in the UK?
Thanks, Simon. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. A really important question. What does it take? It takes so many amazing things. One of the quotes that was given to me by a participant during one of our research projects was this one. And he was at an event and Sebastian Coe was speaking. And he said, you can have a skills competition without the Olympics, but you can't have the Olympics without a skills competition. Skills are ubiquitous in everything that happens in our lives, in the economy, in policy making. So having an event like in the UK just showcases the excellence that is abundant in the system that we may not be always drawing on to the best of our ability.
And in terms of what you've learned, in terms of moving on and trying to get that bid, as we heard Alan Milton yesterday and Robert Halfon MP talking about this remark, Robert Halfon said it's a no-brainer. Alan Milton said there'll be a queue of skills ministers out the door wanting this to be delivered. What are your reflections on that?
So, I mean, I'm in complete agreement. You go to one of these events and the goose pimples, I mean, you can't help but be excited. And Anne Milton wrote in her essay for WorldSkills publication that was released last week, it's the sheer size of these events, the enormity of them, the intensity of the competition, the way that these young people are just working for 4 days straight to prove that they are the absolute best in their skills, to bring to fruition and bring home all of that training that they've undergone in the previous years, to do themselves, their employers, their parents, their friends, WorldSkills UK, their country proud is just phenomenal. And to do that, the focus that they have is amazing. They understand truly what excellence in their skill area is.
And for you, the ambition, obviously, as you heard from the names I said earlier on, and I can see Chris nodding with great gusto of the possibility of this coming forward. The will is there, but I wonder whether you can see whether we have made progress since 2011, whether there has been development, whether minds have been changed, whether there is a greater understanding since 2011, which is almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago. How time flies. Um, so much has happened. I think we have made great strides in a number of areas. I mean, the fact that skills competitions now feature in the Ofsted inspection framework was a particularly big step in getting our further education sector to think about that move from competence to excellence. There is, as I said, so much fantastic work out there in FE colleges, and it was very encouraging yesterday to hear Gillian Keegan talk about the investment that government are going to be making into the sector. I certainly hope that some of that investment goes into our people. They work tirelessly, and there are different understandings of what it means to move young people from competence to excellence. And I think what the WorldSkills UK have done through using research to actually underpin and use the evidence to move it forward is the fact excellence is actually much easier to achieve than I think people realise. We can see it happening with the training managers who work in FE colleges through slight iterations in them, getting the students to understand what it means to move from, a 3 millimetre tolerance in a particular carpentry area to a 1 millimetre tolerance. Understanding what excellence is in their general work, taking pride in it. So I think there has been huge strides in the last 10 years. Do I wish it had been more? Of course. I wish we could have WorldSkills UK CPD for all FE college lecturers and tutors. I wish we could take every single primary school student to the event that would have been happening now in Birmingham, to get them to see the skills live show of what can be achieved. I remember going to one very early on. We've been working with WorldSkills UK since 2007, and going to one of the events and seeing this young girl laying bricks. Now, there is absolutely, I just couldn't imagine any other scenario where she would get the opportunity to try being a bricklayer. And it's that kind of education and training that we need for our young people, the have-a-go sessions, the understanding the possibilities that are out there. And that's where I think we've made huge strides in that we've allowed our young people to see what is possible through WorldSkills UK.
Thank you, Dr. Susan James Reddy. We'll come back to you. Chris Humphreys, CB, President of WorldSkills. Couple of things for you. This is obviously a time of great change for all countries, and you've seen Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, talking about the importance, in his words, build back better, and certainly seems to understand the importance of skills. Do you believe the government gets it?
Yes, I do, actually, Simon. It's of course important to remember that Boris was Mayor of London when we held the event in 2011, and he was a fantastic supporter. I was in quite a few occasions before the event. London, the mayor and his office were deeply involved in the planning and helping to sort out funding and sponsorship for the event. And on top of that, he was a visitor at the event and surrounded by young people who cheered him on as he sort of made his inspection and visits around the Excel Centre. So, yes, I do believe there's commitment from government, but it's more important and it's wider than that. The truth is that government knows now that we are going to have to work our way out of the current COVID and generated economic situation. And the only way to do that is to ensure that every individual, young and old, really makes the strongest contribution they can. So that's not just about engaging young people and engaging all working adults, but about upskilling us all to be able to be effective in the labour market and in the competitive environment which we're going to face ourselves. So I think this is actually something that not just prime ministers, but chancellors, skills ministers, business and industry ministers, and socially focused ministers are going to need to focus on, because this important drive towards a recovery and using skills at the heart of them is going to have an impact on all of those aspects of this society.
And can I ask you about your own specific role as president of WorldSkills? You're less than a year into the role. You've had a huge amount of change, no doubt, in your own life, in your own vicinity, and certainly in WorldSkills UK in this country, but you're obviously across the globe. And, we're living in a society that appears to be, in some ways, more divided than ever, and in other ways more connected than ever. Today, so far, in these 2 days, we've connected with Australia, we've connected with Chinese Taipei. We know we have viewers from not just this country, but around the world. But beneath the surface, there is friction, there are waves. We are living in a kind of a weird society where we know we have a desire and a need to be as one, but there are things that are pulling us apart as well as pushing us together. How do you succumb those challenges? Not succumb, should I say? How do you overcome those challenges?
Overcome, yeah. Of course, you're right, and those tensions do permeate all the discussions we have. But it's really interesting. I remember going to Iran for WorldSkills some years ago, and I walked in to meet the skills ministers there, a man and a woman who were responsible for skills in Iran, who said to me as I walked in the door, "Do you do politics?" And I said, "No, I do skills and economic impact." And they went, "Excellent, then we can have a really open conversation about this." And that's what we're finding as I talk to nations around the world. We do experience and feel the impact of politics and political divisions that are obvious. But at the same time, every nation knows that deep down, it's the economic and social issues of the day, which happened this year to be even more critical than ever. And we find it very possible to have high-level discussions around the importance of skills despite rather than, around the politics. And I think this is going to be a feature of most of our discussions around skills in the coming year. We all know we're in this one together and we need to work together to get the best benefit for all.
Thank you for that. Some questions coming in, which I'll go to the panel in turn. And then I think if that's okay, I'll bring Dr. Neil Bentley-Gockman in on this as well. And you can, at any point, put questions through to the panel. On your screen, you'll see an option to the right-hand side. Ask a question, just pop your name and also your area, your job title, your area of work, so we have some reference of where you're coming from. This is from Jennifer Dunn, who's Healthcare and Early Years Programme Leader, who asked the following: how can we try and ensure that soft skills are valued as much as technical skills? My department, says Jennifer, is healthcare and early years, so we're very limited on the hands-on skills we can do because of the current restrictions. Let's go, if we can, first to Susan James-Relly on that. The idea of ensuring that soft skills are valued as much as technical skills.
It's absolutely important that we value soft skills as much as technical skills. They underpin all of our human interactions, from just how we work with our friends and our colleagues to getting a job at interview. How do we work on them? I think it's about getting our young people interested in them. I mean, it's a huge problem that primary school and secondary school, to a possibly slightly lesser extent, have had the curriculum eroded in terms of PSHE and all of those skills that would have been learnt in those areas. So, Jennifer, I agree with you completely. You know, the emphasis needs to be just as much on soft skills as our technical and more hard skills. And finally, I'd just like to thank you for all of the work that you do. I don't think we say thank you to our FE colleagues enough.
And just for those who don't know, PSHE?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that. Personal, social, personal. Oh,
I didn't
the problem with education.
It's only because I didn't know. I just. We'll come back on that. Somebody will tell me in the next few moments. Don't worry. Same question to you, Chris. Chris Humphreys, at CBE, who's president of WorldSkills. This idea of valuing soft skills as much as technical skills.
Oh, absolutely essential, Simon. There's no question about that. We issue occupational standards relating to all the skills that are part of the WorldSkills competitions, and soft skills are an important part of every one of those standards. And indeed, in most of them, they're item one: communication and interpersonal skills, and then numeracy, literacy, the whole aspect of how to work with others, to communicate. They are an essential part of any occupational standard that we issue, and the competitions, of course, are built around those standards. So, yeah, no question about it. Your questioner is absolutely correct. We do and must and do incorporate them in all events.
Thank you for that. And it's personal, social, health and economic education for those who don't know. We'll be testing you on that at home a bit later. Thank you for that, Chris. Neil, what are your views on this idea of making sure that all areas of skills are valued equally, particularly as you heard there about soft skills versus technical skills?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely agree with what Susan and Chris have said. And I think the key to this is getting employers to be more demanding for them. And, you know, for many years I worked at the CBI, leading employer organisation, and time again, what was coming through was a demand for those soft interpersonal skills. And I sometimes worry that that doesn't get through to young people and their parents, that actually that's what employers are really looking for. And often you will hear employers talking about recruiting for attitude and training for skill. You know, they see the raw material in front of them. If you've got a spark, if you've got confidence, if you've got interpersonal skills and qualities that they know they can mold through training and further training into, you know, an excellent employee. And that's often what gets missed out in the debate. I think there's a lot of emphasis on technical qualifications and having something written down which says you're technically great, which is very important, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, what employers are always looking for is somebody who's got something extra, somebody who's got that interpersonal skill. And that's why, you know, the work and the training that we do through, you know, competition-based training is all about developing the higher skill standards in technical trades and skills, but also developing that confidence and self-confidence. Because you're under pressure, you're being required to communicate in different ways. You're being required to manage yourself and potentially manage with others in teams. And so all of those skills and developing those are just as important, as Chris was saying, from a WorldSkills perspective in terms of the methodologies that we use, which is why you see young people when they come out of our competitions-based training, either at a national or an international level, you see them transformed. And it's not me just saying that, it's their parents who will tell you that, and their employers, because they go on to do amazing things, setting up their own businesses or on to stellar careers and have fantastic outcomes based on the training that is as much about the technical and the soft skill. And that's at the heart, and I think the value really of WorldSkills and WorldSkills globally. It's that competitions-based training that really brings both of those and key elements to the fore.
This is a question from Bob. Bob Wattenmore asks, I think it's really important to promote the professional sector competitions, accountancy, project management, etc., to help continue to change the public perception of skills as mainly practical, hands-on. So this is a question from the panel. How do you intend to further engage SME employer engagement from these sectors? And it's important to know that SMEs fulfill a vast number of businesses, the majority of the businesses, certainly in the UK and no doubt in most other countries too. Chris first, Chris Humphreys, CBE, President of WorldSkills.
Simon, thank you. I think you're absolutely right. And just two things to say about that. One, a number of our skills competitions are actually team-based. If I use the example of the manufacturing team challenge, it draws together three or four competitors from different sectors, from engineering, from IT, from construction, depending on the nature of the task. And they have to actually undertake a clear and structured project which tests their project management and organizational skills amongst the team, as well as their technical skills, in order to deliver an outcome project that is of genuine value to the world as we know it. So, for instance, a solar-powered water pump that will raise water 30 feet, which has been used in Africa, plumbing projects, solar-powered scooters and transport systems. And project management is an incredibly important part of that sort of thing. The second thing is that WorldSkills is looking at how we expand and diversify the range of skills we cover and create skills that are more akin to the real-life challenges that you see in the workplace. And as we do that over time, I think we'll find more of those skills being incorporated too.
Thank you, Chris. Also, same question to our other contributor, Susan James-Relly, who's Director Scope and Head Education for Social Sciences at the University of Oxford. This idea of promoting professional sector competitions, accountancy, project management, to help continue to change the public perception of skills as mainly practical and hands-on.
Absolutely. I think it's really important that a whole variety of skill areas are promoted so that we actually understand. I really liked what Gillian said yesterday, that we need to perhaps move away from this notion of knowledge economy and think about a skills economy. And when we think about things more broadly, then we can begin to break down the barriers that oh, well, that's just about technical education, and vocational and technical education is for other people's children. It's just not the case. And WorldSkills UK proves that time and time and time again. I'm going to link back to the last question as well about social skills and use an example. When we first began the research in 2007, we were moving to look into the cycle of competitors who were competing in 2009. And I was fortunate enough, we were administering a survey and we got to go and meet all of the competitors and have dinner with them. And I sat next to one of the young lads who was trying out for landscaping. And I was talking to him, and his knowledge about how to plant, which plant, when, of the plants was encyclopedic. It was absolutely phenomenal. And it was about the knowledge and the skill being combined for him to know exactly when and how to plant those plants. And when I said to him, I said, so, you know, your work, your employer, all the rest of it, and he said, oh, no, I'm just a labourer. He was so far from that notion of identity of himself. I mean, he was a phenomenal young man, and it was interesting. I met with him later in a follow-up after he'd competed, and his whole social skills had changed. You know, he would look me in the eye. He definitely was not referring to himself as a labourer. So I think being able to think about skills in a much more broad way also allows us to bring in more of those social skills as well.
Susan, thanks for that. I'm going to come back to the studio for a second because, Susan, your microphone, I think your computer is having its revenge on you in some way because your mic is either hitting against yourself, it's just moved in some way. So while you have a look at that, same question I think to you, Neil. Again, there does seem to be this issue with certain areas. There is a misunderstanding, a lack of respect, a taking for granted almost.
Well, I think there are three things. One is, what we've been doing at WorldSkills UK is moving, I guess, the balance of our competition portfolio in line with economic need and industrial strategy, first of all. And that's about making sure that we are increasingly aligning with the needs of the economy. And professional services make up a huge amount in terms of UK GDP. And so two other things that have happened, I think really welcome things, is the big four, for example, in professional services, who do a lot of auditing, a lot of accounting, have started recruiting apprentices and sort of rebalancing their graduate intake with apprenticeship intake. So they're focusing a lot more, I think, in terms of training young people themselves. And we've worked in the past with the Association of Accounting Technicians, for example, looking at the accountancy profession and looking at how do we create competitions to really engage young people in that profession. And last year we had a demonstration competition at our national finals in association with Kaplan to really re-engage and reinvigorate that side of our work and to really answer the question around making sure that we are looking at professional services as a route into training and professional services as a stepping stone through apprenticeships. There's a lot of work we'd like to do more on. We need support and partners. So back at the question is, if you're interested in us in doing more on professional services and more on accountancy in particular, please do get in touch with me because we want to do more, but we need partners to be able to do it. We need employer partners and education partners to run skills competitions at a standard that's required, at a UK standard, and then that helps us then link with countries around the world within WorldSkills to build coalitions with other countries who are maybe seeing the similar sorts of challenges, who'd like to run competitions in professional services, and then we can form coalitions and demonstration competitions at European and global levels, which then starts to move towards having a global competition cycle in professional services. These things take a bit of time, but the question is absolutely spot on. We're completely up for it, but we need help and support to be able to do it. So please get in touch directly with me if you want. If you've got names of employers and partners who can help us move that forward, completely up for that.
And as we draw this session to a close, and I'm going to, unfortunately, because you're sitting with me, I'm going to give you probably the more difficult job. I'm going to ask our two panellists to bear in mind the question, a bit of a chance for some blue sky thinking, of which you will have plenty of notice. You'll have less so. And that is, look, in recent years, we've had Kazan, we've had Abu Dhabi. We know what we think might be the show, the spectacle that will be Shanghai when it eventually arrives in 2022, which is going to put all the years out. We'll never be able to remember when anything was, because we know it's an odd year and it's another odd year, and now it's going to be evens for a while. But if / when we do get London returning, where would you like it to take place? What would you like it to look like? What will the focus be? What's your vision for that? Because the stakes since 2011, there's no doubt those stakes have risen.
Indeed. Well, the first step, and this is a politician's answer, we need to do a feasibility study to look at where is the best location and what will the cost base be. But I think, This is blue skies. Yeah,
Remember,
but I'm about to get there. So
I've got some clouds. I'm seeing clouds.
But I suppose what the past, 6-9 months has taught us is we need to be putting WorldSkills onto a blended physical and digital platform. So, from our national finals perspective, as we're thinking, in the past we are hosting a WorldSkills event, please come to it. What we were doing in WorldSkills Kazan was broadcasting live from it as well. You and I were sitting in a commentary box, beaming it back into the UK, the opening and closing ceremonies. We were broadcasting live every day, talking to Team UK. I think we need to up our ambition and look at how, if we were to host in the UK, it becomes an event that we can broadcast around the world, and not just the opening and closing, but actually bringing the rest of the world into the UK without having to physically necessarily be there, so that you can experience skills in a very different way and see everything that's going on your phone, so that we're inspiring every single young person in the world to think about skills as a route to success. But also on top of that, what I'd really like an event in the UK to be as inclusive as possible, and a celebration of British diversity and inclusion, and making sure that we're bringing young people into professional careers through skilled training routes, and it being attractive for everybody, for young women and men, for young people who are Black and Asian and minority ethnic communities, for young people who are identifying as LGBT, young people who have disabilities, whether they're physical or learning disabilities, that they see WorldSkills as the answer to their success in work and life. And we've got to project that to them wherever they are in the UK, around Europe and around the rest of the world. And I think that level of ambition is what we should be aiming for, so that when it comes to the UK, that it's not just about the UK, that it's about the UK resonating with the rest of the world and projecting a far bigger level of ambition of connecting the world through skills.
And because this is a horrible question about it, I'm going to give you a possible opt-out answer. And the answer is every region must be considered. That's your answer. The question is, realistically, if it does come back to the UK, it has to be in a nation other than England, doesn't it?
It has to be an event that connects all 4 nations, and that's what we would need to do, starting talking right now, in order to be able to do that. Because I guess the difference from the time when Chris was leading the bid is there is so much more difference and devolution now on skills across the 4 governments. But what we heard this morning from the Welsh Skills Minister, for example, was completely getting the UK platform and the UK standing on the world stage as Team UK, with a strong Team Wales as part of Team UK. We have to use technology, and we have to find different ways of bringing the 4 nations together onto that UK platform.
All right, many thanks. Chris Humphreys, your vision for WorldSkills insert city.
Well, it's interesting. When we held the event in London in 2011, London was really the only choice, because at that point, the physical location and bringing young people into the site in physical attendance was essential. You could really what is now possible. But as Neil highlighted, in Kazan, that event was broadcast over the world. We could get 200,000 people into the XL Centre in London. The Russians had 270,000. The Chinese are going to go for more. But in 2024, it's going to be in Lyon, and it's not going to be a venue that is the size of anything like Kazan or Shanghai. And the French recognise this and recognise that what they've got to do, as Neil has said, is take the event to the whole of France and take the event to the whole of the world. And the power of social media, of digital broadcasting, of digital competitions, our ability to provide hundreds of thousands of people with an opportunity to participate in simple skills-based competition tasks at the same time as the competition around the UK and around the world means that the format and structure of future events are going to be very different. Lyon will be only the first of those to start looking at scale in a different way. And Neil's absolutely correct. When we're designing a UK bid for 2026 or 2028 or whatever it is, then it really has to understand how to take that event to the whole of the UK, engage the whole of the UK, and use that experience to communicate with the whole of the world. And social media and digital systems provide us an opportunity to do something we've never seen before. And I think we're going to see from Lyon onwards a dramatically different form of WorldSkills events. And that's exciting me. That's a fantastic opportunity.
And actually, this next question, just before we come to you, Susan James-Rulli, probably feeds into exactly what you said. This has come through from Michael Hinu, who's from the GLA, the Greater London Authority, who asked this as if on cue, but this is not on cue. This is a question that's just come in. Could a feasibility study for a future event consider a multi-city approach celebrating regional differences? Chris, effectively, that's almost what you've outlined and what Neil's outlined too.
Sorry, is that to me first?
Yes.
Oh, right. That is a proposal we've had from a number of member countries, and it's exactly the sort of thing that Lyon themselves will be looking at. They are going to have a relatively small venue, but their ambition is to engage the whole of France in it. And I think they'll start some experimentations in those areas. And I think all future bidders will need to look at how they create a multi-site, multi-centre, digitally connected event that will be different from our past experience. And that for me is just hugely exciting, because I think we can take our attendees, you can put that in quotes, from the 200 to 250,000 you can get inside a venue in 4 days to the millions and tens of millions around the world. So if we don't get this right, the opportunity we've missed is enormous. So yes, multi-city. We've had suggestions for multi-country events from some of our members, and all of those options have to be on the table.
Thank you very much.
I think an opportunity for the UK to lead the way.
Thank you for your question as well. And that original question to Susan James-Rulli, a vision, if you like, for Blue Sky thinking of the next time it comes to the UK.
It's a fantastic question, Simon. I'm going to assume that if we're Blue Skies thinking we're not being constrained by a budget, I'm thinking like the World Cup football, games and events around all 4 nations of the UK, showcasing our FE colleges, our higher education institutions where some of our competitors come from, and just really elevating our education system and showing where the excellence is and how we've achieved that. Has to be fundamental to whatever we end up going with. But I love the way that Neil and Chris are thinking so far.
And I quite like that suggestion to you both, a UK event with no budget limit. Chris, just finally, if I can ask you, and I'm only half joking or half serious, depending which way you want to look at it, is it of benefit if the bids need to come in now to have somebody as president of WorldSkills who has such a connection to the UK?
I guess in part it is. But of course, at the time when the final decision is made by potentially competing countries, all seeking to host for the same year, the ones that not the vote. But would I be cheering from the sidelines? Oh, hell yes.
Many thanks. Thank you to you both, to Dr. Susan James Raleigh, Director Scope and Head Education for Social Sciences at the University of Oxford, and also to Chris Humphreys, CBE President of WorldSkills. It's great to have you both, and it's an honour to have you both on this session. Thank you to you both. And just to end there, Neil, Dr. Neil Bentley-Gockman, the CEO of WorldSkills UK, you've been buoyed by that, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely, and fantastic ideas as well. We can start thinking about our bid process, but it's the enthusiasm, I think, from partners, and that we saw yesterday as well from Robert Halfon and Anne Milton, is really motivating. I think, as Chris was saying, the last time UK hosted was seen as a stepping up of a benchmarking process for WorldSkills. And there is, from my conversation with international partners, there is interest in the UK seeking to host again. And I think that's something that brings the four nations together. It's, as I was saying earlier, it's not just about the hosting of the event, it's the run up to the event, the hosting and the legacy that matters. We need to take the long-term view, and that's how you engage four nations, that's how you engage all regions, that's how you engage cities and showcase, as Susan was saying, the excellence that exists within our further education system. And it's about creating a whole 5 to 10 year strategy of showcasing excellence and mainstreaming that into our skills system, so more young people are getting the higher standard of education they need. That's the catalytic effect we want to create if we're going to potentially put in a bid. That's the ambition we should be having. And technology is going to really help us, I think, land this in a completely different way than we may have been thinking just at the beginning of this year, when we started this conversation about our ambition to potentially bring WorldSkills back to the UK.
Neil, many thanks for that. Dr. Neil Bentley-Gockman, OBE, who is the CEO of WorldSkills UK. So that is the end of that session, but we are coming back in just over 10 minutes time. The final session of this remarkable debut of the WorldSkills UK live online International Skills Summit is going to be hosted by Julia Belgatti, who is head of FE for the TES, the Times Educational Supplement, to David Gallagher, Chief Executive of NCFE, Paul Joyce, FE Director for Ofsted, and Parisa Shirazi, who's Head of Skills Development and International Competitions at WorldSkills UK. So the panel and also Julia will be here in about just over 10 minutes time. I'll introduce that session. Please keep your questions coming through. It really brings these sessions alive and to light, and I think it certainly delights the panelists when they've got a connection with you. You can do so by using the option on the right hand side of your screen. Ask the question, press that, pop your name and your job title so we know who you are, and we'll ask as many questions as we can. We'll be back at 1 o'clock. We'll see you again soon.